Hello, everyone, and welcome to another call. So today I have with us Laura Ordile, and let me tell you a little bit about her. So Laura is a master in hypnotherapy, a professional intuitive astrologer, expert in the field of neuro-linguistic programming, and so much more. And Laura has learned one very important thing. She knows that when you change your mind, your life will change. And she set out to help individuals transform into their happiest, most successful selves. So, mixing in the practical and the woo, like we love to do here on the show, Laura joins us today precisely to talk about the subconscious and what we can do to have like those quantum leaps of transformation that we also desire. Laura, thank you for joining us and welcome to the call.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. And it's so exciting because I love when you say, you mix the practical with the woo because we love that. And it's a matter of doing that. It's not just like the woo, this is crazy. It's okay, there's practical things that we can do. But if you can share with all of us, how did this even start? Like from astrologer, hypnotherapist, NLP, I didn't even mention it, but I know you're a color specialist as well. Like how does this all work?
Well, I originally started, I think, with intuition, with being an intuitive, and I wasn't sure about it at first, and then I found a book one day, and I thought, gosh, I'm going to find out if this stuff is real. Does it, and can it be practical? Can you apply it? Not just have things show up willy-nilly and be there whenever. And so I read a book, and it's actually called Practical Intuition. And I sat down with it. And as I was going through it, it was just like, wow, this stuff is real. This stuff is incredible. And so I went from there and started doing some intuitive readings and working with people, which, when you start stuff, it's always scary as heck. But I did it. I jumped and I did some of the stuff. And from there, it's I just was talking to somebody the other day about something. I said, it's like tattoos and potato chips, where you don't just do one. Then you go to the next thing and you go to the next thing and you go to the next thing. And so I did that. And through each thing, another door opened. And I find that happens so often in life where it's almost like you walk in this big convention center and you're like, oh my goodness, there's all this fun stuff. And as soon as you kind of go and you look at one, the person there is like, oh, wait, I have these other doors here.
Hmm.
And it opens up to this whole nother room and this whole nother area. And so that's how I ended up. I've always kind of loved astrology, but I thought it would be too much to learn because there's so much. And sometimes when you hear people talk astrology and they're using, the lingo, it's like, oh my goodness, I that sounds like way too much for me to even try and learn. But I came across the right teacher at the right time, and she was amazing. And she taught me in these little tiny bits and pieces. And then, it just kind of all flowed together. And through that, along came the color certification that you mentioned and working with that. And it was super fun. And I found that the color, it was actually originally taught to me as working in energy. But I find that when I use it in working with the subconscious, it's an incredible, easy way to work with it. And when I started, I don't even know how I started down the road of hypnosis. But you grab something somewhere along the line, and
Hmm.
uh, it started showing up in my path. And so I was like, well, okay. And at the time, you're gonna laugh, but at the time, I was thinking, I really do need to add a really practical thing in my toolbox. And so for me, that was hypnotherapy. That was hypnosis. And I thought, wow, this is a great tool because the stuff that I do intuitively with astrology, with all of that is amazing. And I give this amazing information to people, but they have to really take it from there and do what they will with it. I can say, here's how you do this, here's how you do this. I can actually help affect the change in the moment with the person with hypnosis. And so that was a little bit of a difference. I was able to literally make the change for someone. They have to be willing, they have to be
Mm-hmm.
there wanting to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can go in and make a difference in that moment for them.
Mm-hmm.
Do the other things make a difference? Absolutely. But does that make sense how I explain that a little bit?
No, it does. It definitely does. And I agree 100%. It's like I have all these thoughts coming through because, like one of the past episodes, we were talking about a healer needs a healer, a coach needs a coach. Why? Because all these things help, but it's sometimes we're willing, but it's in that subconscious. So I understand it's like when you're helping do that through the hypnosis, it's like you're really helping get in there and be like, okay, let's do this. Let me help you do this. Because it gets to a point. So let me actually kind of get into that question. The subconscious is so powerful. I mean, that's what we're talking about today. And it's so very powerful. There's two different ways. So I have two different questions. We can answer either one or. One is when you're conscious of something and you need help changing it, shifting it, transforming it. But then there's the other part that we don't know what's in the subconscious that needs to change. So how do we go about that? Let's say in hypnotherapy, let's say, you have somebody and you're in a session, they don't know what's in the subconscious that's affecting them. Through the hypnosis and through the work, do you get to that level and be like, oh, okay, this is what it is? Or how does that even work?
So, um, yes, the hypnosis. Well, your subconscious knows everything from before you were born until
Hmm.
this moment in time. It has everything in there, just like a hard drive on a computer. It has all of that information in there. But just like on a hard drive, two things there. First of all, it has certain things on it. The information that, the original coding that's on there, which is what you have as the subconscious foundation. And it's there from a little bit before you're born until you're about 7 years old. It's put into that hard drive, and that's the operating system for
Hmm.
your life, basically.
Hmm.
And so you go along and yes, you add things all the time, you do things, but that's the basis of it. And so as you go and you move, your subconscious is going to try to protect you first and foremost. And
Right.
so it's operating off of that information and going, okay, you want to make this decision. How does it go against this coding that I already have? Does it go along with that? Does it go
Hmm.
against that? Because if it goes against that, I'm not going to let that happen.
Hmm.
And so that's why sometimes we fight so much to
Hmm.
change. We don't even realize that that coding is in place, that it's there, that those things have happened. And so that's a little bit what I do. I help you go in, and just like on a computer, you have files and files and files, and
Hmm.
it's really hard. You don't know where to go look for something, even when you search for it.
Hmm.
And you're like, what is causing this? What is happening here? Why can't I get to the next level in my business? Why am I having so much anxiety? What is happening here? And so that's what I do is I come in and I'm a little bit of a tour guide, and I help you to go down into that subconscious level with focused attention, with kind of being in a good space. And whether you understand it, uh, recognize it, are aware of it, doesn't matter. Again, your subconscious knows. So sometimes when I'm working with people, they will go into the session and not remember anything, but they'll come out of it and go, wow, something's changed, something's different. Some people will go into it and go, I kind of had flashes. I had little, but I don't understand what it means. That's okay. The change can still come. And
Hmm.
some people will go in and remember everything and go, wow, that never occurred to me that that moment could have been something that that needed attention. Because literally, it can be something when you're 18 months old, and maybe your parents had a big argument when you're 18 months old. And at 18 months old, that's a really big deal. Voices are loud, there's stuff going on, and it's, oh my goodness, this moment. And it almost puts like a little marker or a hook inside of you. That's what people call those little trauma moments. And so what happens is your subconscious goes, I've got you. And it creates this little version of you that kind of comes out and goes, no worries, I'm going to protect you. And then you get to move forward.
Hmm.
And then it does that along life. Another moment happens, maybe when you're in school, you get bullied. I've got you, and it comes out and it protects you, and you move on. But what can happen, unfortunately, is, do you know those little Russian dolls, one
The one that
inside
goes
the
one
other?
inside the other.
Yeah, that's what happens with those. You have those little tiny versions that were hurt however long ago that are inside of you.
Hmm.
And if they don't get healed, if they don't get acknowledged, and the awareness, because you talked about, that acknowledgement, kind of that awareness of things. If they're down there and they're still kind of in this loop of hurt, because that's what they were there to do, was to protect you. So they took that hurt.
Hmm.
They're stuck there. That needs to be cleared.
Hmm.
And so it can wreak havoc all the way through your life or at a moment in your life where all of a sudden you hear people go, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I have this anxiety, or all of a sudden I'm so angry at everything. I don't get what's happening. Am I out of balance? Do I need to do this? Do I need to clear the energy? What's
Right.
happening?
Right.
And a lot of times it goes back to the subconscious, and there's a part of you that's unhappy and needs to be cared for. And I often, there's a couple different references or different ways I explain it, but if you ever had a puppy, you know that when you have a puppy, um, they want attention, and they come up and they try to get attention. They try to get attention. And if you don't give them attention, they go off and they chew up your shoes and they pee on your rug and they do things you don't want them to do.
Hmm.
And that's what happens with your subconscious. You might start to experience migraines, or maybe you've had migraines for a long time. You might have a chronic illness that shows up. IBS is really, really significant, and past traumas and past things that are in there that need to be cleared. Those are signs and signals from your body saying, we need to work together and come together with a part of you that's unhappy, that needs
Hmm.
attention. And so I hope that happen. I bring those together and allow you to come into an awareness, whether you remember it or not, that brings you back into a wholeness and lets you clear all that stuff and kind of move forward without it being so hard and so difficult and taking so long. Because sometimes people think, well, we have to suffer and we have to go through everything. You don't. You really don't. You don't. I mean, they're climbing the mountain and trying to get to the other side. And I kind of tap them on the shoulder and go, I have another way. And I open a little door to a tunnel that goes underneath the mountain to the other side.
Hmm.
Easy, complete. You're where you want to be. And
Hmm.
you didn't have to suffer for that really long period of time.
Hmm.
So, so
And I love
that's a
it.
little bit of the
No, sorry.
subconscious.
And I was going to say, I love how you said that because you're like, I'm a tour guide into your subconscious. And with that example, you just said it perfectly. Because again, there's things that we may or may not know, but you're right. We don't have to go through the suffering and the heartbreak and the having to do all these rough things. Because I know there's a lot of people that fear, maybe if I don't remember it, it's because I don't want to go there. I'm scared of what I'm going to see. Or if I did repress it, let's say we did know that we did repress something, it's like, okay, do I really want to see that? And it's okay to go into the subconscious and be like, okay, let's talk this through, however it works, like the process. But it's kind of like we don't have to go through the suffering. It's just we could just go through the clearing of it. However, words we can use in that case.
Yeah, and your subconscious knows. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, like I said, it knows you, it knows everything about you.
Hmm.
And it knows that if there's something that you can't deal with, you can't handle, it's not going
Hmm.
to show it to you.
Hmm.
It's going to allow the healing. It might show you representation of something. It could show you a tree that loses its leaves and then, regrows and does it. It might show you a puppy, like I said. It might show you anything. It might not show you anything at all. You might just not remember anything. But that does not mean that the healing doesn't take place, that you don't
Hmm.
come together in that, because there is an awareness that comes from that. It's it can be hard because sometimes people um, think that if they don't see it or they don't have that
Hmm.
realization, they're not going to heal. But
Hmm.
that's not the truth. That's not how that works. There are a lot of ways. It's like going in and flipping a switch. It's so funny. I worked with someone and we came up to about our last session and she came out of it and she said, "Oh my goodness, I don't know what happened, but you're right. It was like something flipped.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell even now that things are different. I don't know how they're different. I don't know what that means, but I know it's different."
Uh-huh.
And so it wasn't about her seeing or experiencing or um, having to come to that moment of everything being laid bare because she just needed that reconciliation. And that can happen in whatever way your mind sees as best for you.
And is it similar to like in coaching? When in coaching, you can know exactly where the person is you're leading them to or what's showing up, but until they don't do their own aha, it is that rewiring of the brain, right? That's kind of what you're helping to do. When you're going in there and you're in there under hypnosis and you're talking to the subconscious and it's clearing it out and okay, you are safe and the whole process. It's kind of like that rewiring of the brain because now it doesn't need to protect itself or it doesn't need to protect you from what it thought it still needed to protect, right?
Yes, in a way it is. And I'm going to use another little kind of analogy, but it's like being on a bus and there's this bus driver that goes along and the bus driver only knows this way. It
Mm-hmm.
goes on the same route every day, all the time. That's the way it's supposed to go based on all of this information that it already has. That was the route it was given. That's the way we're going to do it. And so, yeah, by rewiring, going in and changing, reprogramming the GPS, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
when before when you're on the bus and you're like, hey, I want to take a left, I want to go this way now. They're like, oh no, we don't go that way. This is the way we go. And but when you go in and you rewire and you hit the reset button and you go, no, it's okay, we're safe, we can go this way, then you're able to go that way. You're able
I
to
love
go
it.
in the direction that you want to go in without all of the hurdles that tend to come up. Oftentimes people start change and they move and they go and then something happens or they
Mm-hmm.
panic and they backpedal or something gets in their way again and again and again. And that's often your subconscious going, we're not allowed to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know that it's safe. Do you ever have that moment when change comes and you're just like, oh
Uh-huh.
my goodness, and it's like jumping off a cliff. Oh
Uh-huh.
my goodness, do I do it? What do I do? And then once you're able to get that momentum and know, okay, I am going to go for this, and you
Mm-hmm.
go, then everything kind of goes. But sometimes the subconscious won't even let you get to the edge. It just keeps pushing you back. And so that's what I do is I allow all of that, the gates to open, the way to open,
Right.
and all of that stuff to be out of your way so that you don't have to be blocked at every turn or
Mm-hmm.
keep your head against something going, I'm doing all the things. It's not working.
Right. Right. It's funny because when you said that, what do you do when you're at the cliff? My mind went, no, you don't jump. You're at a cliff. Like, no. But I love when you said that you're programming the GPS because it's true. But then I have a question. Is that where the saboteur, is that how we say it? Saboteur, is that where it comes in a little bit that you want something, you're trying so hard for it, but your own subconscious is blocking you
Yeah.
because of something, because of what, that's why you sabotage yourself, right?
Yes, because there's a little part of you somewhere inside of you at whatever age, whether it's a year and a
Mm-hmm.
half, 5 years, 7 years, whatever. There's a part of you that basically you kind of it's holding you hostage
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to do what it wants to do. So if you think of a teenager and you if you don't have one, you've been one. So you know how how much a teenager wants what they want and how much they don't want to do necessarily what anyone else wants them to do and how vicious actually they can be in
Mm-hmm.
getting it the way they want it. They're going to do everything and anything. And that's if that's the bus driver going on in your head right now,
Right.
you might be experiencing some really
Right.
difficult things.
Right.
And it's not fun. And you kind of have to go in as the hostage. I guess I'm a hostage negotiator. I come in
We're gonna change
and
your
I
bio.
help. And I help, in that negotiation to release the hostage and let you go where you want to go.
That is so funny. We should change your bio. Hostage negotiator.
Right?
But it's so true. It is
It,
really true because like you give the example of a teenager, but if our subconscious is programmed between our first 7 years of life and many of our things, what is it, like 95% of our subconscious is the one running the operating system of our day-to-day life.
mhm. Yes.
It's a 7-year-old or less running our adult life, and then we don't figure out why we can't figure out life. It's that whole process of we should all go to a hypnotherapist session and
Good.
see who is running the show and maybe really negotiate like the okay, let's let her grow up. You're okay, you're also, whatever it is. But it's true. It's like imagine a 2-year-old running our adult life. That's why we don't do the things that we do, or we're scared of things and don't want to try new things because the world is scary. Or maybe that's my 2-year-old
Yeah.
talking. Now I'm going to start
Yes.
thinking.
I mean, think about if that argument that your parents had when you were a year and a half old was all about money,
Hmm.
and so then that line that's installed for you is, ooh, money causes arguments. Money
Hmm.
is not good.
Hmm.
Money can cause issues. Or maybe it was all about, relationships and ooh, relationships are not good. They're going to cause
Hmm.
pain. They're going to cause hurt. That's anchored into you.
Hmm.
And your subconscious is going to base your actions off of that anchor.
You don't have to say specifics, obviously. Now I'm curious. Um, do you see in the X amount of ones that you have done, do you see kind of like a trend or a pattern that, let's say, I'm exaggerating, but let's say the numbers. 90% of people have a belief with money and that's why they're struggling with money, or 90% is really, or do you see them all over the facet of life? Like, is there a general category that you find that people are, I don't want to use the word stuck, but that their subconscious was keeping them hostage in that area of their
Yeah.
life?
Well, almost everyone that I talk to that is stuck or dealing with something like that, whether it's a confidence issue, a money issue, um, whatever it is that it shows up as in your life, gosh, almost more than 90% of the time, it's going to be related back to something that is there, that's
Mm-hmm.
way back when.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk to more and more people. It's so funny because I talk to more and more people now, and even other hypnotists and stuff. And when I talk to them about their work, they're going, I'm finding more and more that it's almost always based in, I'm going to use the word trauma, but a lot of people don't think about that because they don't realize that a lot of the things that happen in their life would be considered trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to people and they'll tell me, "Oh no, my life was okay, or it was just this, or it was just that." When you start having a conversation or work with them for a
Mm-hmm.
while, and they were abandoned, and their dad beat up their mom, and they had to live on the streets for, but they don't
So
see
what?
that
Right. Right.
as difficulty, or it was just life.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of things in my life that it was just my life.
Mm-hmm.
It was a common thing. I talked with someone, and he was writing a book, and he was writing a book about violence, and he had a conversation with someone, and he said, "Yeah, I had a very violent, situation in my life coming." And the guy goes, the other person said, "Wow, I've never experienced that. That's a difficult, must have been a difficult thing." He says, "I've never experienced violence." And then a little while later, they were having a conversation. He said, "Well, I guess I did get punched in the face that time."
Just,
It was kind of,
side
well,
note.
violent.
Right. Right. And it's
So,
super it's super interesting. When I studied, so I did a 3-year alternative medicine program. And I remember the first year, first week, he was like, in the first year, we're going to work on your life issues and your traumas and your things. Second year, you get a little bit more help and you start seeing people and clients. And then the third year, you're on your own seeing clients with my feedback was the school's policy. And I remember sitting there that first day, honest to God, I was like, I guess I'll learn from everybody else's life. I don't have any trauma. And then I guess it was like 6 months in, you start like waking up, like you said, like the conversation starts. So 6 months in, I was like, okay, I can work on this. I found this. A year in, I was bawling. I was like, everything was so repressed. I didn't even know it. I don't know. And that second year for me, second and third year for me were so hard. But you're absolutely true. We lived through the things that we lived through, and we've all survived them because if not, we're not here. We didn't survive the things that we lived through, we wouldn't be
Yeah.
alive at this moment. But we keep doing the best we can, even if it's stumbling. And another day, and another issue, and you focus, and another day, and then you do forget it, or you don't stop to realize that is trauma. Or you grow up in such a situation, it's normal. We don't see it as trauma. You see other things as trauma, but not that because you're so used to seeing that. Especially if we're programmed from 1 to 7, that's all we grow up with. That's our thing. That's our life.
Right. And that's so interesting because when I hear people say, "Oh yeah, well that's just how it was," or I'll often hear, "Oh, I've dealt with that," or those are like little almost signposts for me
Uh-huh.
that say there's probably something
There's probably
right
something
there.
underneath that.
Oh, I've dealt with that. Okay, all right. Or,
Right.
that's just how it was, and I'm past that, or, that doesn't affect me anymore, or anything like that. And oftentimes those are the things that do are still there that still have.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is there's a seed that is or thorn, I often there's that little thorn that gets down in there. That nothing is going to be okay until that thorn comes out because
Mm-hmm.
it's always going to be irritating things. Or the seed. The seed, what happens oftentimes is the seed grows all these little things, and you might have insomnia, you might have um, poor self-esteem, you might have whatever these little things are, migraines, like I said before, all these
Mm-hmm.
things. So people come in and they cut off this part of it. They get rid of the migraine.
Mm-hmm.
But then something else shows up. Another little branch grew off or another little part of it because that weed, that little root is still down there.
Mm-hmm.
And until you go and you pull that out, it's just going to continue to, and it'll show up in different ways. That's why
Mm-hmm.
people who often get rid of one bad habit have another one pop right in
Right.
because it was like,
Filling the gap.
okay, well, if you're not going to let me do that, again, the
Mm-hmm.
hostage negotiation, I'm just going to do this. And
Mm-hmm.
it'll find another way to sabotage you, to try and get your attention, to do
Mm-hmm.
what it needs to do to get healed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna change the conversation just a tad. With astrology,
Mhm.
um, how much of the obviously I believe in astrology, I love astrology, same thing as you. I've always wanted to study it. I still haven't because I haven't found the right teacher. For me, it's all like I'll understand it when I read it at the minute, and then in 24 hours, it's like reset and my brain just kicks it out, like literally. But my question to you is, there's a lot of things that we do subconsciously that are triggered by the stars, which is the reason astrology. I mean, we're not going to get into a full conversation of astrology, but astrology does have an effect on us, just like the moon has an effect on us, the tides have an effect, like the whole thing. How much of our subconscious, though, is quote unquote being guided or moved along through astrology? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And
Okay.
so I was trying to think of how I want to answer that because astrology is influence and energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it is all about kind of the energy that we came into this world, first of all, to work with and be in and to find balance with. And so some of it's really easy for, depending on your astrological chart. Some of it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be really easy for you to work in, some of it's going to be a little harder. And yes, we came in with some life lessons and those things. And I think that comes out in the different ways that we work with something. So I often think of like the universe and all of the energy that's out here, and then kind of our subconscious is the gateway
Mm-hmm.
that information kind of comes in and filters through, and then it comes into us, and I think our intuition then shows us the directions to move in, what to pay attention to, what to work with, how to live in that energy.
Mm-hmm.
But we're always going to have things that are the best way for us individually to do things. So if you are, I'm going to pick Saturn. Saturn is life lessons, life purpose, that type
Okay.
of thing. It's what you came in and said, I'm going to work in this. I'm going to do this. And this is what my life is going to be really influenced in. So let's say your Saturn is in Libra. So when you come in, you make this agreement to go, everything is going to be about relationships, everything. Okay. So you're either going to really dig into those and work with, and everything in life is relationship. You have relationship with yourself, with the earth, with the energy, with the stars, with other people. Everything
Mm-hmm.
is relationships. And so you're going to be working at that. Now you can either fight against that thing and not find the balance where you're trying. Libras are so cute, first of all,
Thank
because they're
you,
very much
by the way. I am a Libra.
so. Libras will be like, I want, I didn't know that. That's so
Yeah.
funny. I really want a relationship. I want to be in a relationship. I want to have this. And then they get in the relationship and they're like, oh my God, I need alone time. I need my alone time. And so they go back and forth with this. But what the key is to know that you are fully yourself and
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And it's just in how you want to be in that relationship. You don't give everything to the relationship without the balance of giving to yourself, because it won't ever work.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be in that constant difficulty of trying to, it's like, I always think of it as like the little infinity sign going back and forth.
Right.
You're feeding to yourself, flowing into the relationship, giving to
Mm-hmm.
yourself. If you're giving to the relationship, you're giving to yourself. If you're giving to yourself, you're giving to the relationship. It's not either or, it's
Mm-hmm.
both. So if you come into this world with Saturn in Libra, it's always going to be about relationship. You're always going to be experiencing that. And it's always going to be an ongoing choice of, how do I want to be in this relationship? How do I want to be in the relationship with myself? How do I want to be in my relationship with money? How do I want to be in all of these things? And and so it's going to bring those experiences into your life. Now, maybe as a child, you had that argument with your parents, or that you saw it, and it was about relationships. So now you have an anchor, you have this little spot in your life that
Mm-hmm.
goes, so now relationships are this challenge for you, but you
Right.
came in here to work in relationship. So you want to go in and clear those things that allow you to work fully in the energy that you came into this world to be in, because you have this little challenge that's there. And until you take that thorn out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
it is going to be a challenge for you constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, there's always, when I very first do an astrology chart and I work with someone, I tell them there's this point in your life, and I'll tell them the date, the year, something really big happened right here, depending on when
Exactly.
they're thinking. And it's always at the age between 28, 29, somewhere in there, about 29 years old. Something significant happens. I don't care if it could be a country song. Everything fell apart in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was a disaster. Some people will get married. Some people will meet the significant other. Some people will graduate college. It's something very significant that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our Saturn return. And that's a big check in for us right there, that says, it's like the high school principal coming along and saying, are you where you're supposed to be? Are you doing what you said you're going to do? Are you working in the areas that you said that you were going to in this lifetime? And it's a check-in to say, are you gonna, if it's really going bad, everything kind of falls apart, it might be like, okay, I need to reset. I need to find that way of being in the energy that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
And and you decide, and then you kind of move forward from that. Let's say it's in Capricorn. It's so
Wait, hold
funny.
on, hold
Here's an
on. So actually, I was actually laughing because I happen to have my chart on my
yeah,
desktop. So when you started talking about that, I'm like, I wonder where it is. I'm like, oh, I have it right there. But I have no idea what it is. So what is it? What does Saturn look like?
Saturn.
Yeah,
Oh,
a little
oh,
symbol because it
I
doesn't.
can't. It's like a little thing like this. It's kind
Okay,
of
like an
a flat.
H, like a weird H, like a
Yeah.
circle with like if it had hair, like a little circle with like a wiggly.
I don't. I'd have to look at it again. Gosh, I should know that, shouldn't I? But let me just look because I have my chart right here too. I can tell you.
Because I have, so I am Libra, and my birthday was early in October. So for
No,
my
it has a
birthday,
plus sign. It has like a cross and then
okay,
like
got
an
it.
A.
Okay.
That's Saturn.
So, oh, crap. I'm guessing maybe I should just send you this through Facebook. Let's do that. Because I have no idea if it's on the ninth house or in the 11th house. Because supposedly, which is what I was gonna say, is I was trying to do my own chart. I didn't get anywhere. As far as I got was looking at this and looking at the things and being like, what is this? Like, what am I looking at? Here, I'm gonna send it to you right now because I'm interested to know in like different things. And there, I'm sending it through Messenger. And this one, I believe, had a Vedic astrology and normal. I don't know. There's two different astrology kinds, and I think that's what's in the chart because I see numbers, but I'm not sure which house it is.
Oh, yeah, and this isn't the one that I use, but um,
Because I see it like above that number nine, I guess, but then I'm not sure
yeah,
if it's a nine or it's the 11 because the 11 is outside.
no, 11. That's not the right one. The little
Okay.
ship is something else. It's the one above the nine,
Oh,
and
okay.
uh, and so yeah, and it sits, and so it sits uh, right in Virgo, and that means and Virgo is all about putting the systems in place, having a system, putting the list together, having a list, and also a lot about kind of health and especially women's health and things like that. But what Virgos do is they can be really critical, especially self-critical. Oh my goodness. And it'll be like perfectionism and things like that that can come into play. And it's like, oh, nope, this is the way that it should be, and this is, down to like the umpteenth
Mm-hmm.
thing. But they will feel better if they can have the system in place, if they can have
Mm-hmm.
the order of things in there. Now, here's what happens a lot of times in astrology. I a friend of mine is dating a twin, and she said, how can they be so different? They're identical twins, born a couple minutes apart. And I said, so let me ask you this. So one leans into we talked about one particular thing. One leans into this energy, right? They do this, they do this. Yeah. I said, the other one does this, right? She said, yeah. I said, because one is really embracing the energy of
Oh.
that sign, that placement, that there. And the other one is really going against it. So if you take Capricorn,
Mm-hmm.
just as an idea. Capricorn is another person that's like, get it done, do this, be
Mm-hmm.
there, work hard, do the thing. But if they're leaning against that, if they're fighting against that, they're going to be lazy. They're going to not want to do the thing. They're going to do everything,
Mm-hmm.
but they will not be okay in that energy. They
Mm-hmm.
will be miserable all the time
Mm-hmm.
because they're not living in the energy that they're supposed to be living.
So when the Saturn return comes, that you said it's give or take
Mhm.
more or less those years, it's literally checking in, let's say with the Capricorn, are you working hard and are you doing this? Are you doing that? And for me in Virgo, it would be like, is your, I don't know, everything in system? Are you being self-critical? So is that what you mean by the Saturn return?
So
Like,
with Virgo, with the good part of that, it is, are you putting things in place? Are you um, doing things that feel good in an orderly way for you? Are you taking care of your health? Are you
mhm.
doing all of those good things for yourself and kind of bringing that wholeness into it? Because again, that other side of it is especially critical of self and
Mm-hmm.
body and all of that, and not embracing that
Mm-hmm.
you have this amazing machine that works systematically in so many
Mm-hmm.
wonderful ways, and
Mm-hmm.
working with that in a
Mm-hmm.
way that is going to bring you to the place that you want to be. So it's embracing the best part of the energy that's there. And when you can do that in any part of it, so a lot of people will have conflicts when it comes to, having the conversation with things. And it'll be like, well, when I'm looking at a chart and I'll see that, the opposition. And I'll say, so you kind of go in this direction sometimes, but then you feel like you're being pulled over here.
Mm-hmm.
You might see the big picture, but you feel like you really need to be involved in the details. And they're like, yes. And it drives me crazy because I don't know how to make that work. And it's like, okay. And so I work with people to say, here's how to do that. Here's
Mm-hmm.
how to bring those together and feel good about it and lean into all of yourself. Because what happens is so many people are told from the time they're young, um, you're too much this, or you're too much, you're too bold or blunt, or you're too much, or you're too quiet, you're too this, you're too shy. They get told that. And what I do when I do a chart is I show them, look at how amazing you are.
Mm-hmm.
You have all that energy and all of that. You are so much because you're meant to shine. You're meant to light the way, probably because they're fireproof. They've got a lot of fire in their chart. They're meant to light the way. Don't let people dim that. Don't let people shut that down.
Mm-hmm.
You stand for us. You're the pioneers, the warriors, the ones that bring us forward. Be blunt, be bold, be out there. The earth signs are there to bring order to us, to bring manifestation into play, to ground us in ways that show us how amazing the earth is and how wonderful that can be. Take your time and enjoy the process. You're not too slow, you're not too secluded. You're just right, and you bring the beauty of that to us.
Mm-hmm.
People have water. Oh my goodness, I could get off on water in a little bit, but water is the emotion. And people will say, you're so emotional. Yes, because you're meant
Mm-hmm.
to be emotional.
Mm-hmm.
You're meant to have that. And unfortunately, some people don't understand that the emotion they have is a wonderful part of them. And they go, oh, I'm too empathic. I can't be around people. I can't do this. That's not true. There's a difference between being empathic and sympathic. A sympath is someone who takes on all the energy and doesn't know what to do with it, doesn't know how to control it, doesn't know how to. They just take it and go, oh my
Right.
gosh. And an empath knows how to open up when they need to and to kind of put that little force field in place the other times and go, that's yours. That's
Mm-hmm.
not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big difference in that.
Mm-hmm.
And Scorpio, I have to say, I always have to talk about when I talk about water, Scorpio. Scorpio gets a bad rap. They're so intense, they're so this, they're so everything. They are incredible because Scorpios um, show us a part of the world that a lot of people are afraid to look at. They look at death, they look at all the undercurrents of life and all of the things that are there, and they want to talk about it. And so they get pinned as so intense or weird or whatever. But if you think about all of us emotionally, most of us are kind of out on the river having an emotional. Sometimes we have a little bit of, rapids that we go through, a little emotional disruption. Scorpios, if you've ever been at the beach and you've been in the waves, and you know that you can get tumbled by the wave and it can take you and it can roll you around. If you learn to navigate the wave, sometimes you dive under it or ride it in or you do that. Scorpios live in that type of an emotional world. They live in the waves and they have to navigate that for their whole entire life. So they're learning, do I ride this wave? Do I dive under it? How do I navigate this particular moment? And they're doing all that inside themselves as they're trying to hold a conversation with you.
Right.
And
Right.
so give them a break and and then what they do is they'll grab hold and they'll take you underwater into this beautiful world. Like, have you ever seen those pictures where you see the underwater and it's clear and
Mm-hmm.
beautiful? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's what a Scorpio sees. Water signs in general, but especially the Scorpios. And the
Okay.
rest of us are sitting up on the boat looking down, going, it's kind of murky. I don't
Right.
know. A
Right.
little crazy.
Right.
But they'll grab hold of you and want to show you all this beautiful stuff. And you haven't caught your breath and you're going, whoa, wait a minute.
Right.
So you have to teach the Scorpio take your time, bring people down. They want to see what you want to show them, but
Mm-hmm.
give them a minute to
Mm-hmm.
acclimate and
That is so
then
cool.
take them down into that beautiful thing. And then there's the air signs, like you and me. I've got a lot of Gemini
Mm.
talkers. We're the idea people. We're the ones that are gonna bring the podcasts, that are gonna bring the blogs, that are gonna write the books, that are gonna be out there networking, and we have the friends that are like on the wheel, all the different spokes, because
Mm-hmm.
there's so many different kinds of people out there, and we'll have a conversation with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
The air people are meant to communicate, and they are important because they show everyone else how important communication is. They will tell the stories and they will bring the information. So everyone is so important and so meant to be in the energy that they are meant to be in,
Yeah.
and bringing it in so many different ways. And that's the beauty of it. And because of all the different mixes that are on a chart, a Libra who might have that Virgo influence,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to really want the details of, oh, well, how's this relationship going to work? How's this going to kind of come into play? I don't want to just free fall, or
Mm-hmm.
free go all like that. We
And
have to have
some
a
stability,
little bit
some
of
order.
planning. We have to
Mm-hmm.
have a little bit of this in
Yep.
place, and that's going to be important in those. It's going to be way different for the Libra who has a Leo big influence in some other way. And
Mm-hmm.
they might be like, we're just going to go and we're going to be wild and we're going to go up on stage and we're going to laugh and sing and we're going to, put ourselves out there. So it's really different and it's
Yeah.
really special to get to look at someone and say, here's the beautiful parts of you and
Mm-hmm.
here's
I love that.
them all into play to make your life the best possible it could
Yeah.
ever be.
I love that. I love that because it's just like with a doctor. Usually we go see our things because we always want to nitpick what's wrong and change it. But you showing them what's so beautiful about them actually changes the scope. It actually changes their own view of them. And I think that's amazing. We're almost running out of time, but I do want to ask you something. So let's say, for example, let's just say the air signs, because that's what we ended up with. And let's say they come in with this thing that they are the artists and the visionaries and the ones that do the blogs. But then something happens in their subconscious and it blocks them. So, like, say in your sessions, let's say you do their chart with them and whatever, and then you're able to help them remove through hypnosis or through NLP or whatever else you're going to use that block. Because if we're meant to be doing something and we're not doing it, again, goes back to the subconscious. Why are we not doing it? What's stopping the subconscious, right?
Yes, absolutely. I work with people all the time and do that. And I love people um who come and go, I need to get to this next level. I need to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and and whether that's in a career, in a relationship, whatever it is. And they kind of come ahead of time and go, I know there's probably some things here that I'm just not feeling like I can reach where I
Mm-hmm.
need to reach or do what I need to do. And so in working with them, we do clear the crap out of the way. We do get everything out of the
Right.
way. And then they can move forward in a freedom that they probably haven't experienced in a really long time, if ever.
Right. That's what I
If
was
ever.
thinking. Mm-hmm.
I work with people who all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't think I've ever experienced life without that.
Right.
And so it's almost a little disorienting at first. And then it's like, oh, okay. Because people think about someone who is who is meant to communicate, who is meant to be seen, who is meant to maybe be out there, but they don't like being out among people. They have
Mm-hmm.
anxiety when they get in crowds and they don't really know why. Maybe that's just always the way it's been. And so then I help them and we clear that and we get rid of that, we pull the thorn out. And then they go, oh, I'm not even sure I know how to be in a crowd or how to have a conversation. You know,
Right.
so the
Right.
beautiful thing about what I do too is it's not just about the clearing away. We at that point add in confidence, add in
Mm.
the desire to communicate, add in, it's like dialing up good things. And
Right.
we can do that in hypnosis too.
Right.
So we increase the good things as we're clearing away the difficult bad things.
Right.
So it's like the best of both worlds. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I think
Yep.
it's
I
amazing.
definitely love that you do all of it. And again, the practical and the woo, because through the woo, you have your intuition. You kind of get that from your studies. You have the other thing, and you're able to really, like you said, pull out the thorn and be able to help zoom up the qualities, the everything else. I mean, it's like a total
Yep.
package, which leads us to where can people reach out to you? Where can they get a session? Like, what's the best way for them to communicate with you?
They can find me just about everywhere. My website is under my name. It's Laura Ordile, Lauraordile. Looks like Ordile. It's ordile.com. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok under those names. And so you can find me in all of those places. And I'd be happy. And you can book a free 20-minute conversation with me to see if you want to continue or you want to do one thing or another or all of it.
Hmm.
And we can have a chat about that.
Do your sessions separate them, or can you just go ahead and mix them all in one? Or do you separate your sessions? Now I'm just legitimately curious. Like, does somebody do
I
a hypnotherapy session separate from an astrology reading, or do you do
yes, I do
combos?
because the
Okay.
astrology that I do, when I go in and do your chart, it's an in-depth thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
we spend some time on that. I usually do a little bit of intuitive work with that at the
Mm-hmm.
end. And of course, you ask questions and all of that along the way
Mm-hmm.
for that. But it's a lot of information that I give you, and I usually record it so that you can, and I encourage people go back, listen to it,
Mm-hmm.
watch it again, come back to me with questions because
Mm-hmm.
I give a lot of information up front because I want you to have all that information. I want you to understand. I want you to be able to go back to it
Mm-hmm.
later and go, what was that she said about this
Right.
part of
Right.
of me? And so we talk about that. And and so that's a whole separate thing that I do. If I'm doing updates or we're talking about it, then yeah, it might be at the end of a hypnosis session and you go, can we check, what's going
Let's check
on
the
with,
stars.
yeah.
No, and that's all I wanted to say because that's why the 20-minute call would be so perfect. Because if everybody wants to do everything, well, it's like, okay, in the 20 minutes, you'll be like this one or this one. And that way they can communicate. Laura, thank you so much for your knowledge, for all of this. It's been fun. I'm definitely going to start looking at that chart that I sent you again. Like, I don't even know where I printed it. So it's kind of like, I don't even know what that is. But it is so interesting because all that subconscious work, plus what we bring in, plus are we doing it, it makes total sense, especially if we want to move forward in life. Because it's not just about being curious, it's about growth and it's about expansion. And anything that we can do to actually help ourselves, I think that's amazing. So thank you.
So I'll tell you one quick thing.
Hmm.
Go to astro.com, and you can go in and put your information, and it will show you a lot about your chart. You can look at some different ways of doing it, but it tells you, like in the corner, all the different planets and what they're in and all that. So
Hmm.
you can kind of look. That's a great one to go,
Okay.
and it's free, and they don't bombard you with emails at all.
Okay. Awesome. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much, Laura. Again, thank you. And we'll talk to everybody later.
Okay.
Bye.